Och vi ska idag börja med det första steget som Patrik har fokuserat väldigt mycket på, som handlar om värderingar. Ja.
Men de här 750 cheferna, var det spridda funktioner och organisationer och offentligt privat?
Precis, det är väldigt så spritt. Ja. Det är egentligen vårt nätverk och vi samarbetar också med ett företag som heter professionella i Finland och sådär, för att få ut det ännu mer. Men vi har ju ett starkt fokus inom marknadsföring och kommunikationsbransch och så här. Men
samtidigt kommunikationschef och marknad eller vad det är.
Ja, men samtidigt som att vi har det så sprider vi den här i sociala medier, vilket gör att det blir deras kompisar och sådär. Så det är en ganska bra spridning nu faktiskt på de här. Men det är kanske mer tungvikt, men jättemycket affärsutveckling och sen så IT och försäljning och kundtjänst. Allt det här glider liksom så mycket ihop också. Det är ju verkligen också en trend som vi ser. Så att, en ganska bra spridning ändå kan man säga. Så att de här 10 temana då, värderingar, så har vi ledarskap, organisering, vi har talang, team med mångfald, inkludering, allt det, lärande, organisation, innovation, feedbackkultur och själva arbetsplatsen. Så vi kommer beta av det här i taget. Så. Jättekul att ni är här. Jag tror att det var inramningen för det här. Så, från mig.
Yes. Så user values och values. Det är alltså en del i den här boken då, men det är också frasen för värderingar här idag. De flesta företag har uttalade värderingar. Några är kanske bättre än andra på att leva efter de här eller se till att alla anställda eller medarbetare känner till dem. Och då utgår man ifrån att det är företagets värderingar, det är de man tittar på. Och det här tittar vi på såklart i rekryteringsprocesser också, men det kommer till det. Men det kan vara vettigt att vända på det här och titta på alla, om det här är företaget nu och så sitter ni alla här som jobbar på företaget. Ni sitter ju också på en mängd värderingar. Och det gäller att de matchar med företagets värderingar, men också att man utnyttjar er kunskap och era värderingar. Och det är det där vi försöker att, vi tror att det lyfter företaget. Det kan inte bara stå och säga, här har vi 4 värderingar, de finns på de här affischerna och så jobbar vi efter det, så är det bra, eller hur? Okej? Utan vi måste ta in det som alla medarbetarna har med sig, det man kan. Och det försöker vi jobba med rekryteringen också då, det är där vi kommer in på det som blir lite värderingsstyrd rekrytering. Att verkligen lyfta upp det som personer kan, som vi kallar värderingar. Det är inte bara det som står i CV, för där har man kanske inte skrivit in sina värderingar. Där står det mer att jag har jobbat med den här saken under så här många år på det här företaget och sen har jag den här utbildningen. Så våga använda värderingarna, våga använda företagets värderingar och våga använda kandidaten eller kollegornas värderingar. Vi försöker ju då vara relevanta när vi jobbar med rekrytering och konsultuthyrning, så relevant som möjligt så att vi är en bra samarbetspartner. Och då måste vi göra mer än att bara göra avslut på rekrytering, se till att det blir en kollega som kommer till det nya företaget. Vi måste själva förkovra oss under tiden. Vi måste se till att vår verksamhet blir mer relevant. Utvecklingen går jättesnabbt. Med det så går också kandidaterna utvecklas på ett annat sätt. Företagen utvecklas, företagets verksamhet utvecklas. Och där måste vi också vara med. Den här boken som Karin pratade om och den här undersökningen, det är ett exempel på hur vi försöker förbättra vår affär genom att göra vår egen analys på vad som händer där utanför. Sen har vi olika sätt då hur vi jobbar med det som vi kallar för kunden. Alltså när vi träffar en person som ska rekrytera till sitt företag. Där försöker vi lägga till några nivåer och utmana den här personen eller det här företaget. Det är väldigt enkelt att sitta där och prata om en rollbeskrivning. Så den kan bli ganska fyrkantig, det är boxar vi ska ticka in. Men här försöker vi också lägga till den delen som handlar om värderingar, det vi sa på den andra röda bilden innan här, att utmana, använda Och vad har den här rekryterande personen, vad han eller hon för slags värderingar? Att våga ta det här till en annan nivå på något sätt, tror vi är en variant för att lyfta upp det, så vi kan ha med det i vår rekryteringsprocess senare när vi letar kandidater. Och på så sätt kan vi också hitta kandidater eller nya medarbetare som kanske inte var enligt CV helt spesad för rollen, men det visade sig att det blev en bra match ändå, därför att det fanns andra kvaliteter hos den här personen. Så, ett steg till då i det här med att jobba med värderingar, förstå vad som händer och bredda oss. Det är att jobba med experter inom olika områden. Larri är en sån. Han är vår kollega sedan en tid tillbaka. Vi har gjort workshops och seminarier tillsammans under år som gått. Vi har varit på små företag, och så har vi varit på stora företag, och så har vi varit på jättestora företag. Vi har gjort sån här typ av workshops och seminarium i Sverige och i Norge och i Kanada senast. Och vi tycker det är superkul. Det här gör att vi breddar oss här inne på företaget, men det gör också att vi kan addera någonting mer när vi ska vara en samarbetspartner. Så Malcolm, we switch to English and the stage is yours. We'll get a sample of a values workshop and you'll take us from here. Malcolm will be your guide. Karin and I'll get back at the end.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Look forward to it. And this is the hardest part of the presentation, is switching from one to the other and hoping it works. If it doesn't, then it's like, what do we do for the next 40 minutes? Oops.
Yes.
Wait, there we go. Jättebra. Yes! The most stressful part is done. So, thanks for the warm welcome, and it's great to see you here. I'm seeing some familiar faces, which is the best compliment I could ever get, that people come back. As one of my bosses told me, he said, repeat business is the only true compliment you need in the workplace. But the reason that I'm so passionate about values is because over the last 21 years as a coach, I've seen that when I'm working with people, especially one-on-one, whatever we're working on, we always end up going down the ladder from their behaviors to their beliefs, back down to their values, and working there for a while and getting really clear about them. Because once you get clear about that, everything else starts to take care of itself. And it's exactly the same for organizations. As organizations want to be seen as more attractive, have more engagement, and people want to have more purpose at work, then we need to have a discussion about values that is ongoing and very emotional. And we will talk today about why emotion is such an important ingredient when we're talking about something as invisible and strange and mysterious as values. So I'm going to break this up into 3 parts, if it's okay with you. We're going to talk about personal values, which is going to be the focus today, because I really believe that when you go to a breakfast seminar or a workshop, the most important thing is you have a transformation, because just getting information doesn't really make much difference in your life, because we're drowning in information, right? We have more information than we know what to do with. And information doesn't necessarily lead to transformation. Sometimes it does, but most often it's another book on the shelf with a lot of highlights in it that we read, we think it's great, and then we go back to our daily life and things are about the same as they were before we read the book. So just to give you an example of that, how many people in the room right now know that through all of the information they've had through videos and YouTube and everything they read in the newspapers, that they should be eating better and exercising more? Who in the room, just by a show of hands? You have the information, but you haven't had the transformation. So when I do seminars, I really like to do my very best to give people a transformation and take them somewhere new. So when they walk out of here, they're not just thinking differently, but they're feeling differently and they can act differently. Would that be okay?
Yep.
Fantastic. And then I look at company values and how we connect company values to personal values, and how we can look at company values in a more personal way, because that's really the thing that makes the biggest difference in people engaging in company values. Would that be all right? Fantastic. And then finally, if time allows, we're going to have a little look at how we can lead with values. And I'm going to do my best to cram all of this into 90 minutes, plus a coffee break. I've had 3 coffees, I think I can do it. Right? So I really want you to be clear that today's about you. It's not about your company. Your company will get the benefit of you changing, but if you change, then you can go back to the organisation and make some changes there. But I really want you to be here today for you. And today's about you having more choices about your contribution in your working life. Because really, the thing that will make the most difference to your organisation is you making a shift. It's not you coming in and delivering them just some information. But the fact that you could go in and live your personal values, your company values, in a more expressive and dynamic way so that other people can feel it, that's the thing that will actually make the biggest shift. And I want you to use your own logic, reason and experience. I used to have a lot of statistics inside this document, all these reports from McKinsey and the Deloitte World Report, and I found that that information made people stay in their left brain, stay really analytical, so I took most of it out. But if you want to know all the statistics, I've got like 4,000 sheets of paper at home. You're welcome to come over, go through them with me. But I'd like you to use your own logic, reason and experience, because there's no Gartner quadrant on you. There's no McKinsey study on you. And if today's about you, then it's about you using your logic, reason, experience and wisdom to see what's true for you. Okay? And that is why I don't have a lot of statistics in this presentation. It's on purpose. But there is so much science behind it. If you want to know about it, then we have a discussion. And one statistic I will say though, and one of the things that I think was so interesting about the survey of leaders that we just did across the Nordics, was 83% of them said that they see a direct connection between values being lived inside their organisation, and the results that their organisation is getting. They can see the link. It's not some airy-fairy thing anymore. It's really a bottom line result that happens for organisations, because when they're engaged in a conversation about values, when they're working with values, and when their values that they say are aligned with their actions, people feel like the organisation has a lot of integrity and people invest themselves in it. So it's pretty much the only statistic I'm going to say today, but I think it's an impressive one. And I think it speaks to why we're all here, to try and find out what is that secret sauce that allows values to be lived and turn into results and a bottom line for the company. And the other reason that I think values has become even more valuable inside the business world is because we're going through massive change all the time. I saw a fantastic slide on LinkedIn this week. I can't remember the lady's name, but she was, it was a lady on stage and the slide was behind her, and the slide said, things have never changed this quickly, but they'll never change this slow again. And I was like, yeah, that really summed it up. So this is like, we're like surfers on the bottom of the wave. The wave hasn't even picked us up yet and we already feel overwhelmed. So what are we going to center ourselves on as we go through these huge amounts of change that are going to happen in our working life over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years? And our working lives are much longer than our parents were. We're working on average 34 years more than our great-grandparents did, a full adult life that we have. And many chapters in those working lives now, changing roles, changing jobs, changing careers. So what are you going to focus on? Because you feel what you focus on. If you think change is scary, you will feel scared. If you think change is exciting, you'll feel excited. So, many years ago when I was about 13, back in the Jurassic period, my father took us on a cruise. from Sydney to Vanuatu, the Pacific Islands, and we went through the worst seas that the ship had ever been through, and everybody on the ship was really seasick. And I remember like being in the cabin for like a whole week, just being incredibly seasick. And then eventually my dad took me to the ship's doctor again because he was worried I was getting dehydrated or whatever, and the doctor said, and it was a Chinese ship, so almost none of the staff spoke English, which was a real bonus. And the doctor said to me in his broken English, he said, where you sit? I said, what do you mean? I'm sitting in my cabin. He goes, no. You go up on deck, you look at the horizon. Keep your eyes on the horizon, you feel better. And so I went up and followed the instructions, sat on a deck chair, spent my whole day looking at the horizon, and eventually my body understood the boat was moving and the horizon was there, and it balanced out and I stopped being seasick. And that's a little bit like what working life is now. It's really stormy seas, it's rocky, lots of change, lots of ups and downs. So we need a horizon to focus on so that we can feel good, and that horizon is our values. If we have a long-term view of our contribution and we keep our eyes on that horizon, it helps us manage change. And managing change is an absolutely key skill in 2018. Who would agree that managing change now is like one of the things that is going to be on your CV? There'll be measurements for it. Malcolm is a 7.6 in change. He also knows Microsoft Office and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be like that because it's going to be an absolutely valuable skill. How adaptable are you? How adaptable? Welcome. Hey, Hans. Welcome. So right about now, you're probably wondering, who is this guy? So I am Malcolm Larri, originally from Sydney, Australia. I'm the leadership and culture consultant here, and as Patrick said, we've been delivering this program to companies from the smallest, 4 or 5 man company right up to some of the biggest companies in the Nordics. And using webinars, we've had the opportunity to train over 2,000 leaders in 15 countries this year using this program, and the feedback's fantastic because it makes people feel good. If you're wondering why you would leave Sydney, Australia for Sweden, Swedish wife. Walking down the beach, saw a beautiful Swedish lady walking that way. Excuse me. Next thing you know, we're married and I'm here. Worked out really well. I'm the happiest love refugee in Stockholm. And I'm an NLP master practitioner, so neuro-linguistic programming. That's basically a study of how we use language to describe our experience of the world. And if we change our language, we change our experience. And today's a lot about that. And I've been a coach for over 21 years for both personal and professional coaching, and I'm a certified workplace trainer. That just basically means I know what I'm doing, you're safe. Nobody will be injured here today, nobody's ever died at one of my seminars. A few people have slept, but I feel they woke up refreshed. Still a win. So what are values? So what I'd like you to do right now is pick a buddy that you're going to work with on some little, sharing exercises. So please find someone that you're going to share with.
Thank you.
so let's get on the same page. I'd like to ask you, what are values? What are values? Anybody?
Sure. I would say that values is a combination of cultural background or things and that kind of a mixture with mindset. So let's say differently what we think is right, correct to do, how we have agreed to live together, or in a social way, or in a work environment, what our let's say rules, or what are our values. Then you should probably not use the word to describe it, but that's a challenge.
Yeah. Anybody else? Somebody up the back. You.
I think it has to do with your beliefs.
Beliefs?
That
Yeah.
comes from within.
Emotions.
Emotions? What about you? What do you think?
Me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about values compared with goals. That's what I'm thinking about.
Okay, so if I went around the room, we'd get a slightly different version of the answer for a lot of people. And values are actually hard to describe. There's invisible things that we know are there, but we can't point to them. You can't say, look at those values. I'd love some of that, you can't do that, right? So one of the things that human animals have done, which is so amazing, is we can agree about things that are invisible, like values. Say that they're there, and then agree which ones are the best. It's like really bizarre when you stop and think about it. But we have this ability to do it. It's one of the reasons humans have been so successful. So we can agree on things that we don't see, and then share it across the whole planet. So what are values? When I asked the question, and I heard so many different answers, I thought, let's just let the dictionary decide, because that's already been written. So I went to Webster's dictionary. Values, principles or standards of behaviour, one's own judgment of what's important in life. One's own judgment of what's important in life. When I read that, I was like, yes, that's exactly right. It's different for all of us. What a value is for me that's important might not be important to you at all, depending on who I am, where I grew up, what I think is important, my religious beliefs, etc., on and on and on. So it's your own judgment, and that's why it's so important that we get in touch with our own personal values before we start telling people about values. I have, people, HR directors for the biggest organisations in the Nordics, and they say, we want to talk about values. They say, what are yours? And I say, I don't know. And why don't we start there and work up? And it makes sense. If you're going to start telling people about values, you should probably ask them about values first. So why do we have them? Why do we have values? The reason we have them is because every single choice that you make comes out of your values. You would not be able to make a single decision